Hey, what is up guys, MKBHD here, and one of the trends at CES is if you walked around long enough, you would see a bunch of TVs, a bunch of VR headsets, and a bunch of drones. And it wasn't always this way. Drones have come a long way in the past couple years since we first started messing with them. This DJI Mavic Pro that came out a couple months ago, despite the couple of issues that it's had, pretty much represents the pinnacle of consumer drones and how far they've come, and in just a couple of hours of playing with one, I can pretty quickly see why. So all the innovation in quadcopters and tiny cameras and stabilization gimbals, propellers and sensors and communication technology, all of that stuff comes together to make this badass little $1,000 toy. And it's a lot of fun to play with, as it should be. So I've always had a sort of basic staple for, I guess when new smartphones come out, how they can be complete, good display, good battery, good camera, etc. Well, for a drone, basically what I'm looking for is good performance, good controls, and then of course a good camera. So first of all, the drone itself on the Mavic Pro, it's super small. That's kind of what it's known for. Even compared to other drones from DJI and others, so many other drones with cameras require like their own carrying case or box because they're too big to travel with otherwise. The Mavic Pro is small enough that it can fit in pretty much any bag or a backpack or a travel bag, or even a big enough jacket pocket if you wanted to, thanks to the folding design. So it's definitely small, and then performance-wise, it happens to be right up there with the best. You never really find yourself limited by the speed or acceleration or stability. You can use it up to 4 miles away, and basically the biggest challenge there when keeping it so far away is just keeping an eye on it on the horizon, keeping your orientation so you can fly it back. The controller is actually pretty clever. It's part drone controls and part video controls, and they put a lot of that power on your smartphone. So you grab the DJI app for Android or iOS and clip your phone in there, and then it gives you recording controls for the camera and then all kinds of information for when the drone is on. Plus the top part of the controller itself is just your typical joystick controller. So going up, down, side, side, forward, backward, turning, all of that. Now, fun fact, the Mavic Pro has a 3,800 milliamp hour battery that you can remove. So not really that much bigger than the smartphone you might be watching this on, but that battery can power the drone for a 25-minute flight time before it starts wanting to come home and land. And that might not seem like that much at first, but that's actually way on the upper end of longer drone flight times on a single battery. And the batteries recharge pretty quickly too. So basically, if you want to fly for a while, you got to have a couple batteries ready to swap out. But all this to me is kind of secondary to the main reason I would get a drone, which is having a camera in the air. So the Mavic Pro has a built-in 4K 30 FPS camera on a gimbal, and this is kind of what DJI does best, so they're great with stabilization of larger cameras. That translates pretty well here too to the gimbal on the Mavic Pro. And the camera itself is so small that it's basically a smartphone-sized camera sensor with a super wide lens. But that's actually not a bad thing at all, because you already know how good smartphone cameras have gotten in the past couple of years. So having a camera this small is no problem for 99% of uses. So you can imagine like a Galaxy S7 Edge or an iPhone 7 camera up there in the sky. And this isn't even a review, I just messed around with flying this thing for a couple of hours. I didn't mess with focus points or manual mode. I was basically just getting my feet wet with flying. I took it out of beginner mode, but the video stuff was in auto, but it immediately showed its potential as a video tool. I just turned it on and took it in the air and was immediately getting shots that obviously you can't get with any other camera or tool. And sure, there are other bigger drones that can take, GoPros and even larger cameras up in the air. Those exist, but obviously those aren't going to fit in the backpack or be able to go with you in a bunch of places. So we got the zooming out of Google Maps looking shot, which is actually one of my favorites. The first couple meters look like you could maybe pull it off with a big enough jib, but then obviously as you keep zooming, it becomes pretty obvious this camera is not connected to the ground. We got the rising up the side of a cliff to reveal a mile square city shot. This is Hoboken, so for those of you who know how windy it can be up here on the cliff, the Mavic was pretty rock solid, looks good. Then we got the movie opening cityscape shot over the river of New York City. Pay no attention to that discolored looking water, that's just kind of the way it looks here. And all of this stuff was pretty easy just from pointing in the right direction and hitting record and just doing a basic move. But shout out to Dom from Mac Mixing for helping me shoot this. The dude's already a boss with his Mavic Pro, and I'll link his stuff below. That's why you see multiple drones in like half these shots, is because he's out here making movie magic and I'm just kind of messing around in the corner trying to get a top-down shot of a random boat. Worth it though. I love top-down shots. But he was able to show some even more advanced shots and how they're possible. He did this parallax shot from right above the water You'd think, a cameraman would have to do something crazy to get this shot, but obviously there's no cameraman, it's just a drone. The Mavic Pro also has some built-in smart features to make some more difficult things possible just with their contrast-based focusing. So follow mode lets you have the drone lock itself into place and then basically turn itself and the camera to follow you around. So you can have it follow you doing something cool without your hands needing to be on the controller. So that could be pretty useful. And there's also a couple of mobile follow modes where it'll follow you in the air, which you might not think you'd need to use, but trying to manually follow myself with the drone controls is much harder than it looks, and I'm pretty good with controllers. So having the drone just lock onto me and follow me automatically using the software was way too cool. It's not perfect, but it's obviously way better than I would have gotten trying to do it myself. Plus, I don't have to be holding the controller. So yeah, drones as a video tool, to me, is the most exciting part of it. Really cool stuff. Imagine being able to use a VR headset and look around, controlling the camera when you move your head. I mean, there's all kinds of neat possibilities that Mavic Pro has me thinking about. Even thinking about stuff like new angles for car videos that I've never been tried before. I guess all I can say is stay tuned for that. This won't be the last time I mess with airborne cameras. So this is just one of many drone videos to come, obviously. Thank you very much for watching this one, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.